Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, it might be hard to believe, but these days you can make a movie just about anything or make a competition out of it. It's amazing to see the creativity of people out there in the world. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and pick their brain about their current projects, usually a film project, state of the industry, how they got started, and just sort of so very much more about their lives in a light and conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, I mean, I'm assuming you do. You're listening to us right now. You could subscribe to the podcast. That would be super. You can find us over at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, basically wherever you find your podcasts. Plus, we also archive every single one of our episodes over at our YouTube channel. And if you could subscribe there too, that'd be great. Plus, you can find us on social media. You can find us on the Facebook, the Twitter, and the Instagram, as the kids call it, either at In the Seats or at It's Podcast One for all sorts of updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, I say it a lot, but it is important, please visit us at In the Seats, intheseats.ca for all the latest and greatest movie news, reviews, some television too, basically anything about the moving image, because we love writing about it, and we love it when you come by to read about it. So please stop on by. Yep, you guessed it, boys and girls. There's even more Hot Docs coverage coming at you. And I did not know what to expect with this one, but this was a fun one. And I mean, if you are going to check out Hot Docs, which is still running online until May 9th over at Hotdocs.ca, Canada-wide, there is some fun and interesting stuff to check out, including this one called Set from director Scott Gawlik, which is about the world of competitive table setting. Yeah, it's a thing, and it's pretty wild, but it's Scott takes us into the world of it all, and as we see a group of cutthroat competitors prepare their entries for a prestigious county fair. It's a real combination of artistry, hilarity, and, well, everything else in between, like frenemies, enemies. It's a bit of a hoot, but it's a fascinating glimpse into this world, and we got the unique pleasure to sit down with Scott and talk about how he found this world. Believe me, you're not going to believe it when you hear it from him, but and just sort of going into this world and sort of discovering it all and really getting a genuine appreciation for it, and sort of the artistry out of it as well, that people are, well, more or less pulling out of thin air. But I mean, it's kind of a beautiful thing to see, even though it is a little silly at the same time. It owns its silliness, which I think was the right way to go in this film, and I do recommend you check out Set if you are going to check out some Hot Docs this weekend until May 9th. But first, why not take a listen with our conversation with Scott, and because I enjoyed the hell out of it, and I think you will too. Now, I mean, I guess just to start it off, congratulations on the film. I got an absolute kick out of it, but I mean, walk me through how you discovered the world of competitive place setting.
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, by accident. I had, we were at the Orange County Fair, and we were a bit overserved. It was a hot day, and
it happens. Yeah.
Those cold beers, gosh darn it. So, we had a few of those, and, we were like, where's the bathroom? We got to get, we're running into the halls there, and kind of, the fair is just this huge area of just eclecticness, and
Yeah.
so we're walking in, and there's all of these crazy competitions like knitting, or there's like baked goods competitions. But the strange thing about that is behind the sheet of glass, they would have like the winners and like the laurels and stuff. But there would be the cookies were already eaten. So it was really strange hearing like, okay, this was the one that won or not. And so we're going, and then boom, tables, they fill up a large footprint in that area. And I was confused. I thought, oh, this is like a place to eat. Yeah, this is like where we'll eat now. But no, don't do that, they said. And this is where, tables compete. And I just kind of did a little more research and realized, wow, there's definitely something interesting here. And sure enough, there was.
That's wild, man. It's a happy accident for sure. I mean, and I mean, walk me through. I mean, I guess walk me through sort of doing the research and really sort of making the decision to sort of start sort of exploring this as a film, because I mean, I can imagine you can see it on the surface and go, well, that's something. But then the more you get into it, the more you can see. I mean, I guess the competitive nature of it all and just sort of the different people that you talk to. It's really this weird dynamic of like you can basically make a competition out of anything.
I mean, certainly. um, yeah, I mean the Cliff Notes answer to that story is, I approached a couple fairs after I'd seen this, and because I'd realized that this was kind of a thing, it's not just specific to the Orange County competition, and long story short, the other fairs wouldn't let me shoot, quite simply. And because they were afraid that the judges didn't want to be on camera, I said, that's no problem. We'll blur their faces. It makes it more dramatic. We'll shoot them from the back, to keep their anonymity. And they're like, no, take a hint. That's a hard no. So, I'd been speaking with Orange County Fair among all these other fairs, and I'd said, okay, well, we decided we want to make this movie just about one specific competition, and they embraced us with open arms. And they gave me a list of everyone's phone numbers and email addresses and everything, and I basically just started kind of going down the list and calling people and spending a lot of time on the phone with people and kind of learning about them and seeing what would make an interesting story, because I was looking for people that really this was their passion, setting the table. And as silly as that sounds, I learned that it's not silly at all. Because setting the table, I was looking to make a real surface level sort of documentary.
Right.
It's funny, it's whatever. But what it revealed was this is an art form.
Mhm.
Just like me trying to make this documentary is a passion and an art form and takes years, so does setting the table. And these people spend 6, 7, 8 months, getting their
Mhm.
table set perfectly. You ask, how is that possible? Well, it's more than just the knives and the forks and where they are and the Emily Post rules. They're creating a mood. And how the competition works is there's some themes, like in my movie, it's international travel. And so they have to pick a circle table or a square table, and they have to create a mood. Is it like, are you in Morocco? Are you in Africa? Are you in, you name it. And so you're getting the right fabric. You're basically making these mini movies, and it takes a long time, and it is an art form. And these people taught me that.
Now, I mean, I guess that kind of dovetails into my next question, because I mean, for when you read the synopsis and you're going into it, it's like, okay, it's gonna be fun, like you say, surface level, but it's very earnest. Like it was all like your approach to the entire process was very earnest and very honest with them. And I mean, I'm kind of curious, was everyone on board to participate, or did you sort of literally have to twist everyone's arm person by person as you're sort of going down the list of phone numbers to know, no, I'm gonna give this the respect that it deserves?
Well, there's a kind of a unique phenomena with living in LA and LA adjacent, that everyone wants to be on TV.
Of course.
So you're like, hey, I'm coming over with a camera and we're gonna, put you in a movie. They say, okay. but um, but not always. I mean, there's a couple characters in the movie. I mean, uh when I say characters, that's for lack of a better word,
Right. Yeah.
subjects in the movie. Tim, for example, he's at the time that I called him, he's struggled his whole life with depression and had just lost his job, and was ran out of unemployment. He's on food stamps, and was kind of hesitant to the whole thing. And I was like, well, what is table setting to you? And he kind of explained to me that it's 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 his release, it's his therapy. It's his way of, it's a coping mechanism. So, after a day of applying for jobs and getting rejections and just the struggle with this human thing that is depression, him working on his table helped. And I'm like, well, let's tell that story. And he let me into his life. And, without revealing too much of the movie, you kind of learn about this. So it's much more than setting the table. It's much more than knives and forks.
Well, and it shows the importance of just sort of, especially sort of inside, operating inside the human condition, how really we all need a hobby of some sort. And it's something that kind of gets taken for granted in modern life, you know?
Absolutely. But the way these, I will say, the way that these people do prepare is quite interesting. I mean, I mean, there's one woman in the film who, as she puts it, the tables tell her how to set them. She'll go into a hyperbaric chamber, and the table will just kind of form. And this year, she went into the hyperbaric chamber. We filmed her, and she came out, and she's like, I'm going to Africa with this table. And furthermore, I'm going to make it a statement piece about poaching in Africa. This is an art piece, my table setting. And so she went on, there's taxidermied animals, there's blood all over her table. There's bullets. It's a statement. Well, that doesn't necessarily go over well with all of the sort of Orange County sort of other women in this competition and men. And it creates a bit of a contrast because it kind of defines what is art. Is it more than just a pretty table, or can it be a statement piece? And, there's a lot of up in arms and, drama. Like with any competition doc, there's plenty of drama.
How did you find the division between all your subjects? Were they mostly sort of purists about the competition, or were there a few more free thinkers like the one you just described?
Well, just imagine spending 8 months, and quite frankly, a lot of these people have entered these competitions for over 30 years.
Yeah.
So 8 months of the year times 30 years, that's a lot of time. I don't have my calculator here, but it's quite a bit of minutes. I mean, you want to win. and so you ask, well, did I, create this drama and passion and need for winning? Absolutely not. It was right there, and you just had to click record to kind of get it.
Where does the origin of I guess this competition come from? Not specifically for this fair, but this type of competition come from? Did you sort of get to unearth any kind of sort of backstory for why people want to compete for place settings?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I first started, making the movie and the initial interviews, that was like, number 2 question, like, what is the history of this? And not one person knew the answer.
Really?
No.
That's wild.
Yeah, and I thought that would be kind of fun, putting that in the movie of everyone saying, "Oh, I have no clue," and they've dedicated their lives to this. But it didn't make the movie. But and if you really Google it, there's really no answer. I mean, kind of some of the early text about setting the table and rules of setting the table are kind of, if you go to Emily Post, and I'd reached out to her granddaughter early on, Lizzie Post, and kind of got some insight into the world and stuff like this. But I mean, it kind of goes back to Victorian times, from what I understand, where it was very opulent. And if you're eating fish, well, there was a fish plate and a fish fork, and it kind of, I think that's kind of where it was at its excess. And maybe where it started in the fairs is kind of a supplement to finishing school and a 4-H club sort of thing, back when gender roles were,
For sure.
more different than we are now, and we're in a better place, of course. And maybe that's where it came from. No one knows the answer to this question, even the judges.
Because I mean, anthropologically, that's fascinating how this kind of just manifested itself. And I mean, it's one of those things where you really get a, like, I mean, I think your film does this. We get a really interesting glimpse into sort of the human psyche. I mean, and not in a bad way, just in sort of the quirks and sort of the idiosyncrasies and the things that will attract us and draw us into a different kind of world can be really incredibly varied, much like this world is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even have anything to add to that. I mean, you hit it. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, like, if you take out the word table setting and were to put photography, so it's these people doing a photography competition, you wouldn't think it was that weird. Well, as soon as you adjust your sort of perspective and optics on the situation, it all makes sense. And once you see these tables in the movie, they're amazing. You won't question it. They're beautiful pieces of art.
Now, I'm curious, like during this whole process, because like you said, you had set out to make something kind of surface level, kind of fun, but really when you dig into it, there is something deep and kind of meaningful in there. And I'm kind of curious, was there a moment in the shooting process or when you're sort of talking with everyone where you discovered, like, wait a minute, this is almost a reflection on humanity itself in a really weird way?
Um, I would honestly say that I found that in the editing.
Okay.
It was a scramble, that we'd been with the people a lot, but then, kind of leading up to the competition, I'd get these updates. Oh boy, we better go over there and film this table reveal party or whatever. And so we're just banking content at that point. And then I would say, in the editing, during the lockdown, during COVID is really when the movie was made, just because I just sat there and did it. And then I kind of started to realize these emerging themes of humanity and human interest and everything beyond the surface level. At the end of the movie, one of our characters, I don't want to reveal too much, but she kind of sums it all up. And we, my DP and we just kind of looked at each other and we're like, oh yeah, she did it for us. And then I kind of used that throughout the entire movie, honestly, and just kind of applied that through.
That's wild, man. I love it. And I mean, in watching the film, I really sort of got the appreciation of, and this is something people on the outside looking in don't always quite understand. Like, as a filmmaker and as a documentary filmmaker, I mean, projects will either come through like sort of deliberate research and presentations and this, that, or the other, or like you say, it'll be the other extreme of you were looking for the bathroom at the county fair and you just basically stumbled into this world. How important is it from your perspective as a filmmaker to just constantly have that head on a swivel to see where the next story might be coming from?
Oh, constantly. I mean, like, some of what I do for what I run a business, Crazy Cow Productions, and primarily we do a lot of commercial content. And I remember in the past looking at, excuse me, commercials, and you would just kind of be something to scroll through. But ever since I started making them, you see that they're kind of high art too. I mean, so much money and energy and conversation is put into them. You'll never look at a commercial the same way after you make it. The same way can be applied to documentaries. I mean, it's once you kind of make one and kind of are in that world, you don't look at them the same. You're looking at the bones of it. You're seeing past the painting, and looking
Right.
at like how it's hung. And especially now when there's a lot of competition, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
for content out there with all the streaming services. And they say there's a movie made about everything. And look, I'm point in case of that. I made a movie about setting the table, and you got to always be ready. You got to always just be open-minded and accepting of what the universe wants to present to you. And for me, it was a soup bowl and a soup spoon.
Can you think back on the moment, especially in your younger years, that maybe was the pivot point for you that got you into this business? Because I mean, even in their own way, commercials are tiny little stories, and from all forms of it, it's all about storytelling. So I'm kind of curious, what sort of kicked you off to want to be a storyteller in this way?
Yeah, you're gonna laugh at this, but like the Tom Green Show, Jackass, all of these kind of reality-based shows
I love it.
were kind of the first of their kind, where they kind of took the format of television or movie, and did something different. But is it a documentary? Well, the purists would say no, but why is it not? You know what I mean? And I just became completely enthralled with that. And then watching movies like Crumb. I mean, Crumb, the documentary about R. Crumb, the comic. I mean, I had that on VHS, and I wore that. You've heard this expression so many times, but I literally wore it out. It just did not work anymore. I had it on VHS, and years later, somebody got it for me on as a DVD. Then I got it on Blu-ray, and I mean, just kind of, I'd say that sort of content influenced me the most. I mean, look, I made one movie. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, and it's premiering, and it's the first movie I've made. It's the first film festival I'm in. That's Hot Docs on April 29th next week. So hopefully people respond to it in a real positive way. So I'm not the, the say all of this, but I'm excited to be part of the conversation.
Now, I mean, I'm so bummed that you're not gonna get sort of the traditional festival experience up here, but I mean, it's one of those things that like this will benefit so well when audiences really start to get to see it. And I'm kind of curious as it gets released out there into the world more and more, what is the hope for the movie? Like are you like, is it just to tell something fun or to sort of open up a window into a new world that you wouldn't expect? Or like what is your ultimate hope that people take away from the film?
Okay, what people take away or what I take away?
You know
Those
what?
two.
Both. Give me both.
Well, I'll start with everyone else. I hope right now I feel that documentaries have kind of gone into this sort of territory of very heavy.
Mm,
And not to say that they aren't important, because they are important. We need documentaries to educate and teach and correct wrongs that
for
are
sure.
happening.
For sure.
It's a very important medium. But at the same time, we're kind of living in one of those right now, right? You
Yeah.
turn on the news and you're in a documentary. My God, you can't leave the house without a face mask, and I think we need an escape, and we need a moment of pause, and we need something to just kind of make us laugh. And I think that's what this movie does. I think it provides a pause and just sort of a reset and a barrel of laughs, but also it talks about human interest. And that's what I hope people get out of it. Honestly, I hope they get a laugh and they say, "Hey, did you see that table setting movie?" "Oh yeah, I did. It was okay. Yeah, I thought so too. It was fun." I mean, if that's what happens, then it's a win in my mind. Honestly.
Because you know what? I mean, it's a little silly, but more importantly, it's honest. And I think at the end of the day, that's the important thing. And I just want to say thanks again for the time, man. Congratulations on the film. I really loved it again.
Thank you very much. And it's cheap, all things compared, and bon appetit.
Beautiful, beautiful words to end on. Thanks again for the time, brother. This was fun.
Thank you very much.
All right, cheers, man. And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.